Two experts in ICF.
Yeah.
Decades of experience. One podcast.
Yeah.
Two hosts with a lot to say.
Look, I cannot sit through a struggle. I gotta get up and hustle. I gotta push through the pain, cause really that's how you build muscle.
Welcome to the Build With ICF podcast with your hosts, Trevor Brown and Heather Herring Brown. Yep, they're a package deal. With over 20 years of ICF installation experience, Trevor can throw down some expertise on sales, marketing, and training. On the other side of the table sits Heather, aka the girl boss. And she's earned the title as the owner of an award-winning ICF construction company, a drafting and design company specializing in ICF. And the numbers? With a master's in accounting, she does that too. Sleeves up, boots on. This is the Build With ICF podcast.
I don't want nothing for free. I'm here to work. I've been through the dirt. I've been through the dirt. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to give everybody a warning before we even get started today that this is going to be a little bit different podcast. Today, we're going to let Trevor get up on his soapbox.
I think you're going to get more of the Wreak Havoc podcast, Trevor, today.
That's what I'm a little worried of. We might have to actually go back through and bleep stuff out on this one to keep it clean.
I'll try. I think
You can do it?
This will be a real challenge. But
I know.
Yeah,
I think you can do it.
It usually turns into some profanity. Anyone that really knows me knows that's pretty regular. So
Yeah, I just wanted to give our listeners a warning, but I think that this is a conversation that needs to be had because of what is going on right now in California, what has happened, with the hurricanes back east and just all that stuff with just resiliency and disaster preparedness.
yeah, and I'm going to go ahead. I'll start this off
Go for it.
Just with the fact that this is my opinion. I am, as I've said before, I am not a engineer. Today, I'm going to tell you I'm not a fire scientist. We're going to talk a lot about fires and what's going on. I only have my own experience, 20 plus years in the business and being involved in multiple fire rebuilds and different things and education for people coming in, as soon as days after a fire to years after a fire to work with people. I've sat and spent many, many days and hours with fire scientists at these conventions and trainings and things that we've done throughout the years. And so, I mean, just kind of giving you my own opinion. So, because I know I'm going to get a bunch of smoke for some people. I'm sure I read the Facebook groups, and that's kind of what got me fired up here today is to get on here is just stuff I'm seeing in the Facebook groups is just driving me crazy right now. But, take it for what it is. This is entertainment. This is satire, whatever you want to look at it. I'm not here to.
It's
I'm
meant
not
to
gonna
be
entertain.
educational.
Yeah, I'm just giving you some information and making people think. I'm not looking for 3-page DM from people that are volunteer or weekend fire scientists. I don't care. But what I'm upset about is the fact that I'm seeing in the ICF industry right now with at least through these groups, and I'm not going to single anybody out. I'm not going to single out any groups, but there are a lot of ICF groups out there. There's, which is awesome. I love it. I love that we've got, 10, one of the groups, I think we're up to 15,000 members in the Facebook groups for ICF. So awesome. And glad that has created a podcast out of this, honestly. We get downloads and we get all this activity out of this podcast because of the fact that there are so many people interested in it. So taking that with a grain of salt, there's obviously people in those groups that are louder than other groups, and you're going to get a lot of disagreements when you get people together. But I wanted to kind of put out a podcast just because it is topical. It came up, actually, I was on a call the other day with a group of esteemed ICF salespeople. I'm sure they know who they are. I know they listen. And we got kind of talking about this. We got a little bit sidetracked on it and got talking about it and decided it should be maybe an episode just to kind of talk about, loosely what we talked about there. And I really, what I think the gist of what I want to get across here is everyone wants to, I'm seeing people within the ICF industry argue about what is true or false about the flammability, the safety of an ICF, and people saying it's fireproof. Proof and resistant is a very, very fine line that is very blurry, and it drives me crazy because, I'm an older guy. Back in the day, you could say proof behind something and it was not a big deal. Now you say proof and now you're going to get sued by somebody because it's not waterproof, it's water resistant, or it's not, we deal with that in the waterproofing side of the world. That's damp proofing versus waterproofing. You can't say that. Like, everyone wants to just tell you and disprove what you're saying. And that's unfortunate. That's a whole nother probably thing, but really, we're not trying to argue that anything's fireproof. I want to get away from that. I don't want to say that anything's fireproof. Very little things in the world are 100% perfect, and that they're never going to have an issue with, and I saw, and I deal with this all the time. I mean, that I have a bugaboo about termites. I think that's hilarious. All these years, termites just tear them up. Mice tear up ICF.
Yeah.
I've never seen that in all my travels, all my years. I've never seen it, never been provided any proof of it. It's just, to me, a bunch of BS. But the fire thing is another thing. I have personally witnessed homes that our companies provided the product for. I was not the GC, but we provided the product. It was distributors that I was calling on in California that survived some of the most intense fires that California had seen. I had some of them that involved multiple fires that survived. I can tell you for a fact what I personally know. What I personally know is in Paradise, California, when the Camp Fire came through, we had houses that had stick frame roof with asphalt shingle, ICF homes that survived the fire virtually scot-free. They had to replace their air conditioning unit, and one of them had to replace some glass on one of their garage doors because it melted the gasket around it and the glass fell out. This isn't me telling a story about something I heard from another guy. This is jobs that I was on. I was physically on these jobs. These were my distributors. I sold the product. We did, these are all things that we were involved with. We used those houses even for tours through the National Ready Mix Concrete Association, and I believe through ICFMA as well. These homes were toured by other places. These homes were built in a way utilizing things that made it more fire resistant.
Yeah.
And if I screw up and say fireproof, tough.
You're meaning
tough.
fire resistant.
If you don't like it, it's just like I said. What I mean is, it's smacks or the smacks, but these are, there were Vulcan vents first and foremost. You have to keep fire out of the open space inside. Like, the concrete itself is not going to burn down. So what problems you have, because you have people all the time. Like I said, I'm kind of just encompassing all the comments I've read, people, we saw there was a fire and it burned this whole ICF house to the ground. Yeah, the concrete was standing, but it blah, blah, blah. Well, what happened was the fire got inside the house somehow. The houses that I've seen that survived the fire had things in place to make sure that they did not have vented crawls, or vented attics that were where the fire could get in, because the fire was eating oxygen. The fire is looking for food. Its food is oxygen. Its food is wood. It is grass. It is, trees. And so it's looking for it. So yeah, sometimes it will get into the house via that way. So one thing that you can do first and foremost, and I'm not paid by Vulcan Vent, but Vulcan Vent is a brand is a vent out there that is amazing. If you're in a fire zone, they're not cheap, but if you're going to spend the money to do it, it's a soffit vent and any kind of vent that you can put. They have all kinds of different sizes that you can put on that's treated with a fire coating that basically when it hits a certain temperature, it expands.
It's like a honeycomb, and it just closes.
And it blows up and it turns black like asphalt. And so what you end up seeing is it just stops all oxygen or all air, fire, anything from going from one to the other. Yes, you are going to have to buy new ones after a fire, but that's the least you're worried after not buying a whole new house. So, you're going to put that on. The one that I see people saying all the time is, the foam melts. The foam is flammable. That is not accurate. For years, people have said that, and I have had blow torches in my training classes. Again, I'm telling you what I know firsthand. Mm-hmm. I firsthand have put torches on the side of block to show people that it doesn't ignite and does not get turned to fire.
Yeah.
Now, if you have a block that you've used, I will say this, none of the blocks I've used have been able to ignite like that when I've done that. If there's one out there that does, then great. Maybe you shouldn't use that block. But the ones I've used, which I would say are all the top brands out there, all the names that everybody knows, names of the people that have been on this podcast, those brands do not. They have a built-in fire retardant is inside of the mixture that they use to make the expanded polystyrene. The expanded polystyrene will melt like a marshmallow, I guess is the best thing I can explain. You can hold a torch on it and it will go away eventually if you hold the fire on it, but it does not quote unquote ignite. You can't light a campfire and cook a hot dog on it. Let's put it that way. It does not create flames. It puts off some smoke. It puts off some things, but it does not ignite. There's been some comments on some of the pages I've seen where they're like, it's more flammable than wood. The foam is, the concrete's not, but the foam would burn off just like it does not. Not to mention that there is a heat transference that has to happen where the fire is hitting whatever the coating is on the outside. And it's obviously, ideally, in a perfect world, I would highly suggest using a masonry product or stucco if you are worried about fire. Do not put big log siding on the side of your house with flammable stain or lacquer on it that's sealing it. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about being conscious about this and building an ICF house that has a, resistance to fire. And that's going to be, putting on a, hardy siding or, a lower, a masonry type cement siding, ideally, or even better, stucco. That's the majority. All of them that I dealt with in California were stucco. Now, granted, that's what's popular down there, So where we live, we don't get away with a lot of stucco. Everybody wants siding, so we use hardy or masonry siding.
Masonry siding, yeah.
So what happens is the foam actually does kind of absorb and radiate that heat so that it keeps that temperature, that burn point, ignition point from actually taking off quite like it does. What people don't understand is that the fire that gets in and starts burning a lot of these houses is because even a nail hole, it's just crazy, but a nail hole can turn into a blowtorch in a fire situation. Just that much oxygen going in and through the wall, just through a nail hole, or a seal that, a seam on something where the caulking's not all the way sealed, or something where it's pulling the oxygen from the other side of the wall. It will suck the flame into the wall, which then ignites the house, which is what you're seeing on TV right now. You're seeing houses that the oxygen from within the house is able to pull it through. And I don't know what our age demographic is for our listeners. I think if I remember correctly, looking at our analytics, it leans towards older people, or at least our age or older.
40 plus.
40 plus. You probably know the movie Backdraft. Go watch it. If you haven't, go watch it. It's a good movie, but it came out in the 80s or 90s. I can't remember. Probably. Anyway. Great movie. And I've talked to fire scientists. This is some of the conversation we've had with fire scientists. They say, if you watch that movie, a lot of that was very well done. There was, obviously there's Hollywood stuff in there, but a lot of the stuff is very factual. And one of it is what they talk about, the actual backdraft that the movie's named after, which is the idea of it opening a door in a house that's on fire. And then once the fire is starving for oxygen to a point so bad that when it does sense oxygen, it sucks it in such an intense fashion that it actually creates an explosion or a backdraft that comes out and kills a lot of firefighters and people. So that concept is what we're talking about. We're talking about, with the evacuated house, whatever, there's not an open door situation, but anywhere around a window, anywhere where there could be some oxygen getting in is where the real problem is. In a stick frame situation, those are of plenty. They're everywhere. There's a stud every 16 inches. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of access points for the fire to suck into the wall, into the house, and ignite the insulation and different things and get going. So this is what you're seeing on TV. So what we are saying with ICF is that ICF is going to eliminate 90, let's just say 9, I'm going to go on the low side, 90% of the opportunity the fire has to ignite that structure. So if we eliminate most of the opportunity, it will take down the damage accordingly, right? And it's going to go down 90%. If we start taking away 90% of the opportunity for the house to ignite, I don't care. Let's just say that it melts like a marshmallow on the outside. it will stop the fire from moving and getting bigger and going on down the road.
Yeah.
The other thing that's driving me crazy with everything that's on here, and this is mainstream media, not just the Facebook groups that we're running into with ICF. Does downtown LA have forests?
No.
Does downtown LA a wooded, with a bunch of, do you see a bunch of old dead tree branches in downtown LA?
No, what you don't see, or what you do see in LA, is houses built extremely close together with very little defensible space.
Well, I'll even argue, you and I can sit and argue this, even at our own table here, is defensible space is a bunch of BS. That's one of the things that, I guess I trade that. There's people screaming at their car right now, or screaming at the radio. But again, something the fire scientist said, LA is a great example. Asphalt everywhere.
That's true.
There's 4-lane highways, 5-lane, 6-lane highways that those fires jump every time there's a big fire. Are you going to build a 6-lane freeway around your house? Because even that didn't save those houses.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it wouldn't go over PCH.
You
true. Got the Pacific Coast Highway. So all those houses in Malibu that you saw, think about the picture right now. As I'm telling you this, imagine the picture you saw of Malibu burned. Malibu has a highway between the houses and where the fire was. Go back and look at the pictures of Malibu before and the pictures of Malibu after. There's not even huge trees or anything on the other side of that road. There's not. There was grass, and you can look at the pictures all you want. There's grass. There's nothing there. They're talking about fuel, and they want to go back to whatever, global warming. They want to go back to, we need to clean up the dead branches. And as Trump says with the, rake the forests and all that. Yeah. Where we live in Idaho, super important to go get rid of dead trees and to thin around your house and to clean up and not have a direct path to your house with fire. But Malibu burned to the ground along a body of water with nothing but a 100 feet asphalt clear behind them. And it jumped across and got him. So what happens is that fire burns and the wind blowing will push it across that thing. So you can't sit and say, well, I can build a house out of straw if I want, as long as I have a 20-foot defensible space. Everyone gets stuck on this whole defensible space thing. They're like, well, keep 5 feet away from your house in gravel and then have trimmed green grass for 30 feet. Dude, if that wind's blowing 100 miles an hour, it'll push that flame over 100 feet. So you're not going to defensible space anything. Otherwise, every fire would stop when it got to a road. It would stop when it got to a major highway. It doesn't happen. Go look at all the fires in California. So back on that, the bigger thing is if the fuel that you're seeing is not forests. It is not the underbrush. Yes, it is in some areas like where we are and stuff. That is a very dangerous thing with a lot of that. But even that, the most intense fire and the most intense heat and the most intense ashes that are flying, ambers, all these things that are happening are coming from the houses, the fuel. It is creating a campfire. It just like you have when you go camping. It's creating a fire out of wood that is then burning hot. It is burning long, and it is releasing these ambers and things that's moving on to the next fire, which is just a house built out of kindling, is the next house that's going to catch on to it that's 5 feet away from it. So what I'm saying is create a house that doesn't catch on fire, even if it burns. I don't give a shit. If it melts, if it gets scarred, if your siding is gone, whatever, but it doesn't create enough heat or enough ambers and enough, coals
it doesn't
to
feed
move
the fuel
to the next house, right? It doesn't give the fire fuel. It makes the fire weaker. And the more of these houses you have in a row or in an area or whatever, the less the fire has to feed off of, which means the fire will get smaller, which means they can contain it better. So when you talk to these guys and you spend the time talking to fire scientists about this, they're not saying that if we, we'll never have another forest fire again if we build out of ICF. No, we're going to have forest fires. But what's going to happen is you're going to take away a major food source for that fire that keeps the fire so big that the firefighters don't have a chance to get on top of it. Because another thing you talked about I've talked to these guys about is the things inside your house. Some of the intensity of the heat coming from a fire, like what we're seeing in LA, is the computers, TVs, couches, all the flammable things inside your house. is creating a very intense heat. Some of them at a greater temperature than what you can get out of a piece of wood. So the wood's just getting it going. But then once that house goes up and all of a sudden your furniture starts igniting, your computers, all the plastics and things going on in your house that can burn, that are petroleum-based products that you have in your home, all that stuff ignites, right? So all we're trying to do is create a wall around all of your flammable crap that we don't want to catch on fire, and that fire can move on to the next thing. And so what we're saying is create houses out of things that are less flammable. I will not say they're not flammable at all, even though they're pretty darn close. They are at least going to stop that from happening. And even if you create but you have to do it completely. You can't do it halfway. You can't create a concrete wall and then have big vents in your soffit that allow the fire to get in and burn the house, because then the trusses will go up and everything will move. So we do have to look at this as a complete system, and say, okay, we are going to be, we're going to put, whether, like I said, there's different options. I use Vulcan Vent as because that's just what I know. I don't know. There's other brands, I'm sure, and different things out there, but like other things like that where you're going to stop the fire from getting into the house. Mm-hmm. But to sit here and argue on these groups about, no, it's not fireproof. No, it's not it'd burn too. No, not like these will. Not like these will. And we're sitting here arguing. Why is everybody arguing within our group, within our industry? People are arguing about the flammability of how about we take this energy and we go yell at the stick frame guys who keep building stick frame houses made out of firewood. But instead we want to sit here and spend time arguing about, no, it's not fireproof, it's fire resistant. And no, if you do this, I've seen ICF houses burn, and I've seen, to me, it's just like the guys that come on and go, well, yeah, it's like as an ICF guy, when stick frame guys come to me and go, yeah, I saw a house and the walls were crooked. Well, you want to ask me how many hundreds of houses I've seen made out of sticks that were crooked? It doesn't matter. These are stupid arguments. And so when we're sitting here as an industry fighting within ourselves about like what we can or can't say during this time, the point being is let's dumb it down a little bit, step back from your statements and just say, can we at least agree that it's better to build out of ICF a non-flammable product that has fire ratings of 3 to 4 hours on most product, and say that's better than the fire rating on a stick frame house? That's it. Can we start looking at that and looking at how we can change these issues and quit arguing on these groups about, what it is that makes it how flammable it is or whatever. Is it better than stick frame? Yes, 100%. 100% with zero argument against that. It's better than stick frame. Can we just focus our energy on that? Okay, I got to take a drink now.
Okay.
Go ahead and talk.
That was a long monologue there. So when you had this call yesterday, I kind of overheard you talking, and we have our own story on our personal home where we are sitting right now, where it was like the 1st of November. So we had a little bit of snow on the ground, but the framers were working inside the house. The roofers were outside putting down underlayment or
like a bitch of thing.
On the roof.
I don't know what blue skin, whatever they were using. I don't know what brand it was, but one of the...
It was very sticky, and the framers had like a little area that they had a fire going out in the front yard, and a piece of that sticky, flammable stuff from the roof underlayment came down and blew up against the house, but it hit the fire first and then blew up against the house. And we got here, they were almost done with the roof when we got here. The framers had left for the day, and the fire's not really going in the front yard anymore, but there was that piece that was up against the house, and literally it was like a 1 foot by 1 foot area that it melted the foam. All the webs, I think you can maybe see, you can only see two webs.
The 2 webs were sticking out.
The 2 webs were sticking out. It was about a foot. I have a picture of it. I actually pulled it up while you were on the phone yesterday just so I could look at it.
Maybe we'll post that in our show notes on this.
It was interesting because had that been a stick frame house,
gone.
It would have been gone.
Gone. Whole house would be on fire.
And there would have been nothing that the framers or anybody could have done about it, like as quick, because it happens so fast. And because it was ICF, we had a little bit of concrete exposed right there and a couple of the webs. And we ended up putting some spray foam on there when our insulator came for our roof to do the underside. And he just spray foamed it, and we rasped it off to make it even, level. And
yeah, but if you listen to some of these people that are running their mouth in these, or I should say running their fingers in these Facebook groups, that our whole house would have burned down. It's flammable. And that's what I'm like, it is not. I mean, I'm sitting there going, dude, we had, a piece of, bitchethane stuck to our house for hours, burning on fire to the point that it burned clear down to the concrete. It didn't burn the whole house down. The whole house was built out of ICF.
The foam.
It melted a 1 foot by 1 foot section where the actual bitchethane had stuck to the wall. And outside of that, it didn't burn at 3 inches above where that thing was stuck to the wall. So like the idea of this thing being flammable, it drives me crazy. First of all, one, because there's a bunch of people out there, and I guess the big disclaimer is that I'm learning more and more. You guys will notice you don't see me make a lot of comments in the Facebook groups because there's so much misinformation out there, which I hate that term too. But there's so many people that can run their fingers with such a tone that sounds believable that you get people really believing it. And you get people going on there making comments who are not engineers, who are not fire scientists, who are not, and half of them aren't even ICF professionals, in my opinion. And they're running their mouth about stuff that they don't know about. And unfortunately, we have people who, and I can, again, speaking firsthand, of what this is, we've had people reach out to us and say, hey, I listened to your podcast, but this guy on one of the things told me this. It drives me nuts. And if people cannot, this is the downside to having these public groups and different things where people can just say what they want on there,
everybody
right?
just goes and Googles.
There's guys on there, I'll be honest, there's guys on there that are trying to sell their product. There's some guys on there that I don't know, they're just trying to look smart. I don't know what it is, but just know that you need to do your own research. You need to talk to people that you trust about it. You need to talk to people that can give you these examples of these things.
Well, and all the manufacturers have them
drive you to one of their jobs that has burned to the ground. Have them drive you to one of their jobs that has termites all over in it or mice that are living in it. Whatever. To have it, make sure you're getting backed up to the information that you're hearing. Back up our information. I'm not saying that. I mean, I don't care. I'm just saying, do the research. Don't blindly believe some of the stuff you see on there, because we are, I had no plan that this podcast would get so busy and so popular to the point. I mean, I'm thankful. It's awesome. But getting people DMing us about, product things that they're seeing, and they're going, hey man, I just saw this on this post, and what's your thoughts on it? It's just happening more and more and more. So, I mean, it tells me that there's a lot of people out there that are actually believing what they're reading on these Facebook groups. So I think it's just important that you do your research, take the opinions like this one. This is my opinion about fires and things that I have experienced. You're just hearing my account of what I have run into over the years in this industry. You're hearing my personal account and your personal account of how it happened when our house got something connected to it that was on fire. Take some of that information and run with what you know and believe, not so much just something you see on a Facebook post from someone that
one of the things
claims to be an expert.
Yeah, one of the things I was going to bring up is each one of the ICF manufacturers on their website, there's all sorts of documentation with regards to, the fire rating on them, the sound rating on them, all the, just everything on each block. And I can't remember what the abbreviation for those forms is, but there's all the safety products and resources on every single one of their websites.
Right.
That lists all the testing that's been done by professionals.
There's reasons why they have the certifications and things they do on these blocks. People are not able to just go out and throw a block out in the market and start selling it to people. It used to be that way. It used to be, and we've got rid of most of those, right? There's
when they don't stand up and they don't perform like the other ones, then that's why you have the main companies that stay in business.
There used to be 20 other companies that aren't in business anymore. So you can sit there and look at that. All the information's ready and there for you. They spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on engineering and approvals to make sure these things are correct before they put them out. Another good reason to use top end companies, and not look for the cheapest brand of some guy that's building them out of his garage. Cause maybe I do know there's still places where, you have these, regional brands that are, I don't know how much they're monitored. I hear brands all the time that people throw out that I've never heard of, so they're out there. I guess I shouldn't say that they're that every brand out there has got those approvals, but
But
go
you
look
should
for
look at that.
go look for those approvals.
Yeah.
Go to their website. Most of them have a tab on their website that says resources.
Yes.
Under resources, almost every one of them is going to have a fire rating. They're going to have all of their it's lost it, but all the sheets, the their certification sheets and different things that are going to have the data sheets and everything that they're going to have about all the different things you need to know.
All the code, requirements, everything is there.
So just go do the research and make sure. It's crazy. You see people, on there all the time saying, stuff whether it be fire or not. Like I got people that, these are saying that the rebar schedule is not correct on their website. Where'd you get your engineering degree? That's right. You don't have one. It's like, these people are like, some people go on there and they will run their mouth about stuff that they are not qualified to do. And then they're trying to override engineers and people that do this for a living and went to college to do it. And they've experienced in it. But yet for some reason they're like, well, I think that you should do your rebar at this or whatever. So anyway, just fired up about it today because I'm just sitting here reading more and more, and I'm obviously with all the fire stuff. But this can translate into, I don't want to leave out hurricane areas and tornadoes and things. North Carolina, even with the flooding and different things. Flooding's a tough one because flooding kind of can erode the land around an ICF house. So I mean, but I'll tell you what, it running into the side of it isn't going to pick it up and float it down the river like you saw a lot of these stick frame houses just kind of fall apart and fall in the river. Chances are it will divert the water kind of like a dam. They make dams out of concrete. It'd be nice if your house is made out of concrete. It'll divert the water and maybe allow it to not just sweep it off of the dirt and take it down the river. So, but especially for hurricanes, especially for tornadoes, we as an industry need to get together and just try to push everywhere we can. I know maybe people listening don't think that they have the ability to, change everything, but you can sure talk about it at your local level, and talk about it to anybody that that might be able to, talk about it with your building officials, talk about it with, it's a grassroots thing. If we start saying, reminding people that, hey, I've had people come to me and like, why don't we as an industry just go to California and say,
get the insurance companies to say that the only way,
they can only build with ICF. Man, that's a super cool dream, and I would love that to happen because that would probably mean a lot more money for me and every one of us in the industry. Would be great. And I'm not saying it won't get there, but it's not going to we can't just go down there and say, hey, California, now you guys need to build all your houses out of concrete, right? What's going to probably happen, again, opinion, disclaimer, this is my opinion. I do not have any proof of this, and I have no ability to make this happen. But what my opinion is going to happen is I think that you're going to see insurance companies are going to start to say, we're not going to give you homeowners insurance if you build out of wood. Now, obviously that leans towards us. I don't think we're going to see it where they're going to say you have to build out of ICF. That gets into some legalities of like specifying a certain type or not. Yeah. I think they could tell them that they have to go with a non-flammable product, and which could open them up to obviously ICF, tilt up, CMU, possibly metal frame construction if done correctly.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be ways that they can do that.
I think it's going to be codes from the local jurisdiction. Just like when I've built in fire areas where we have to do stuff for the WUI code, the Wildland Urban Interface. And that included everything from, we had to have either masonry or stucco soffits, and we had to have the fire vents, and we had to, all of that stuff was required for code.
Right. It's already happening.
It's happening to a point.
Like I said, in a fire zone area on the outskirts of town, they're already doing it to a point. Here's the problem. As you know, being the state president and being involved in politics and different things with
our legislative
stuff, and it takes a bill to change the codes to do that. That means that gives lobbyists a chance to fight it. And there are some big money lobbyists behind the stick frame business and the wood business. They would fight it. And I don't think you're going to see that come from a code side. That's why I don't think it's going to happen. What doesn't take an act of Congress or a bill or it could be affected by lobbyists is an insurance company coming in, a large insurance company just coming in and saying, we have the choice as a private firm to not do business in California.
Which is already happening.
Which is happening, period. It happened after the Paradise fires. It happened after San Bernardino. All these fires that happened in California, every time some insurance companies bailed out. My distributor down in Northern California, he lost his homeowner's insurance. They called him and after the Paradise fires said, hey, I know you didn't burn, but that means you're just even higher risk because you haven't burned yet. It's just a matter of time. We're just not going to insure your house this next year. So you need to find another company.
Yeah.
That does happen. And that happens quickly. Like that happens today. Like that happens. I mean, it's on the news. Everyone's talking about how a lot of companies pulled out as of January 1st, and then the fires happened on the 6th or whatever it was, or it was like.
Well, and a lot of people were given. I was reading one of my friends that's an insurance agent that does work in California posted that the homeowners that were being chosen to be non-renewed were notified 3 months prior to the expiration of their.
Right. Yeah. The news loves to make it sound like they went in and canceled them on the day that the fire happened. Anyway, they were notified very much in advance that they were going to be ceasing to do business in that area. And you got to think about it. I mean, we all wouldn't do it either. Like, I mean, if you just know, like, why would you? If you just know you're going to lose money, hey, we're going to lose money. I don't know if you're going to lose money this month or next year or in 5 years. But you're going to lose a lot of money. Do you want to do it?
Yeah.
No.
It's the same thing. Like our house, we live up in the mountains. We are in a fire zone. Our homeowner's insurance went almost double. They tried to double it. We started shopping around. There were 5 or 6 companies that wouldn't touch it because of the zone that it's in.
Just said, period, black and white. If you're in this fire zone, we don't insure in that area. They have the choice to do that.
Yes.
They're private companies. And why would they? So don't demonize them for it. It's a business thing.
Yep. And we ended up shopping around, doing some educating with our existing insurance company, and got our rates kept it where they were at.
Because of it being an ICF house.
Because of it being an ICF house.
No, that doesn't mean blanket statement. Everybody, you can call your insurance agent.
It was a lot of work.
It was a lot of work. We had to go and educate them on this and stuff. And this is part that frustrates me as an industry person. I would like to see us as an industry band together and go to the insurance companies and say, hey, we have an opportunity for you here. Can we at least get a half hour of your time?
Yeah, let's recognize it as a construction method.
Can we at least show you what we mean by why this is safer, and then you can maybe offer this as an option? Because what I see happening is I see insurance companies giving people an option to either pay some exorbitant amount for a stick frame house or none at all, or you have to prove to them that you're going to build a house that's going to be a less flammable house. Okay, I'm not going to say non-flammable. Less flammable house, right? However that is. And with the idea, and here's what's really happening. Again, first person, this is not me quoting someone else. This is something we know from one of our clients in Florida. The insurance was so expensive to insure a house in Florida on the coast in a hurricane zone that they decided to go with ICF because they knew that they could build this house in a way that the house would never be damaged. That would cost them any out-of-pocket expense other than some it'd be minor repairs versus total loss. Yeah, minor, repairs on the outside of the house. So what they did is they said, you know what, we're going to go uninsured. We're just not going to get insurance, and we are going to build a house that we never have to worry about insurance because it will never get torn down. It will never go down, right? So they built a very secure, very well designed that we drew and designed the house for them with the idea that this house will always be standing, right? So that's something I could see them doing, is also as people shifting to an ICF because they could say, well, I'm just not going to carry insurance because I know that the house won't
those
burn
clients
down.
Had that option because they were cash clients. A lot of people, when they're getting financing through a bank, you can't do that. You can't go without insurance.
True.
So
that's where it becomes more important.
And I think, and maybe that's where it starts, is maybe with some of the lenders in these areas as well. Because if the lenders won't lend,
they could say, we won't sign a deal on a stick frame house, but we'll lend on a concrete or an ICF house. So that's where it goes. So if you're listening to this, you wonder, what can we do to fix it? How can we fix it? That's how you fix it.
Well, we need to work together to fix it instead of fighting amongst.
Yeah. Quit just arguing with each other about stupid stuff. It's like, it is just insane. But who cares? Don't go out there. And if you're listening to this and you're one of those people, then just stop putting it out there. Let's try to take that energy and turn it into how do we turn
positive
that energy positively against the stick frame idea, because one of the first things I saw on TV about the fire stuff was a lady who said she just finished rebuilding her house 5 years ago in the same spot from a fire that burned the house in the same spot that it just burned. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't understand why people, and again, this is going to start other arguments of people saying it's this much more, it's this much more. Again, agree to disagree, because I don't think it is, and I think there's ways to do it. And let's put it this way: if it means that you're not going to get granite countertops inside your house, but your house is going to survive a fire or a tornado or a hurricane, I would do that instead of do a cheaper exterior wall with granite countertops in it. Because if that's the case, your house is going to be gone, and that granite will be sitting on the ground in a burned rubble or at the bottom of a trash pile after a hurricane comes through. Good for you for having spending the money on appliances and granite countertops. If you can take out of the finishes and create a better shell that's going to keep your house there and keep your belongings there and keep your family possibly even safe, in worst case scenario, spend the money on the shell. And then if down the road, upgrade the cabinets or upgrade the flooring, upgrade whatever it is, take some of that budget out of your finished work and put it into the front end of that, and get the walls and the structure done right so that you don't have to worry about this. There are ways to do it. Everyone says this all the time. Well, there's no way to do it. There is. There is no way you want to do it. You want all the bells and whistles inside. You're more concerned about when people come over for dinner, how fancy your stove and your countertops are. And because nobody comes over and goes, oh, wow, your 2x6 walls are really good or really cool, or your ICF walls are really cool. No one knows.
No. Until
something like this happens. So take the money out of the budget. If you're that tight on your budget, take the money out of the budget, put it into that. So I'll even concede if somebody says, well, it's way more money. Okay, say it is. I don't believe that in the way we build. It's not. But if it is, take the money out of somewhere else and put it into the walls. Take it out of another budget to keep it under the budget you need. But anyways, it's just crazy. But we're hoping here. Sorry, we wanted to get this little rant out. This is usually not our style, but
we might have to start adding some of this, because I don't know. We'll see how the downloads go on this one. But this is a totally different episode than what we've ever done on this podcast.
And I made it through with no profanity.
You did. Good job.
No editing I have to do later. That's good. Right. So no, it's all good, guys. Positive vibes. I got it out of my system. I purged my rant out, but it is serious. It's near and dear to my heart. I'm very passionate about it, and I just love this industry. And it's hard enough to grow this industry without people infighting about stupid stuff. So how about we get on the same page and we all try to just promote our industry on these groups, and we try to not confuse people that are coming in, because when they hear us fighting and arguing and going 600 comments deep on something of people ragging on each other and calling each other stupid, it makes them want to just go back to stick frame, and it makes them, we lose them to another industry, or they go do something else and they don't want to be a part of it. So let's just try to stay positive. Let's try to get this thing out to people. Let's try to stop houses from getting burned up, and houses and people losing their homes and possibly their lives and stuff with the hurricanes, tornadoes, all the different stuff that's out there. It's a bad enough situation with that. So, we have a way as an industry to really change a lot of people's situations in the future,
and to reduce the economic impact on those families.
All of us, all of us. They don't change the pricing on insurance just in California. They change the pricing on insurance everywhere. Where you live is affected by these fires, no matter how far away you are, or what company you insure with, or your lenders or anything. I mean, they have to recoup their money somewhere, and they can't usually do it all in one place. So it's usually going to get spread out at least a little bit. So just know this is for the good of everybody. Bring it all together. Let's all get positive and get out there and spread the word and let people know in a positive way. Spread the word of some options that people have. I don't think it's too soon. Everyone said that was the conversation. Is it too soon to bring this up? I don't think it's too soon, because
I think it's how you do it.
It's how you do it. It's how you get it across. It's not a neener. You didn't build with ICF, your house burned down. It's a matter of I'm sorry, your house burned down, but have you thought about doing something different next time so that you don't have to do this a second time or ever deal with this again? So I think it's just a matter of getting that out there. I think we need to do it now. We're going to make sure we get this episode out pretty quick, because I think it's very topical and top of mind right now for everybody. So we'll get that out for everybody. And like I said, I appreciate your feedback. Not saying I don't need, I don't want an argument. I think you guys kind of got my stance by this episode. I'm sure you feel my stance a little bit. Happy to answer questions about it. Don't feel like you can't reach out to me about it. But like I said, not looking for a 3-page monologue from anybody to disprove anything I've said here. Again, my opinion. If you don't agree with it, cool. I don't charge a dime for this podcast, so it's all good. You can have your money back for this episode. It is what it is. But anyways,
as always, follow us on our socials.
100%.
Everything at Build With ICF. You can send us an email, info@buildwithicf.com. You can leave us messages on our Facebook page, our Instagram, LinkedIn. I think we have everything except for TikTok, which
we have a TikTok. I just don't have anything up on it. You're welcome to reach out to us on TikTok. I can get messages on it. I just don't.
Interesting. Okay.
I have not figured out how to make a TikTok yet, so therefore I have not put in. Yeah.
Okay.
God help us. Well, if I did figure that out,
reach out to us on our socials. I think one of our next episodes is going to be listener questions, because I know we've got some of those that have been stacking up. So again, thank you guys all for listening today. Thank you for allowing him up on his soapbox.
I'll get down now.
We will see you on the next episode.
Have a good one, guys.